Yeah, this Minions soundtrack is not good. It's too hot for this. I'm taking this off. All right. Well, let's listen. Hi, everyone. Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. You may be shocked to hear that the soundtrack attached to the new Minions movie, The Rise of Gru, it's not very good. Maybe some of you weren't really anticipating it would be good because, you know, it's just like a kid's movie soundtrack and everything. But what was surprising about this soundtrack in the lead up to its release is that it had a real who's who of all the hippest and coolest, sometimes somewhat mainstream musicians that are out there right now rocking it. Freaking St. Vincent, Brockhampton, Kali Uchis, Caroline Polachek, Thundercat, Phoebe Bridgers, Bleachers, Wise Blood, Gary Clark Jr., h.e.r, h.e.r, to name a few. Like, how could a soundtrack with all of these names on it not be fire? On top of it, apparently Jack Antonoff is producing the entire thing, and there are quite a few records where Jack's production has impressed me. Yeah, I mean, for me, that's like a recipe for success. That's really a recipe for success. How am I not gonna end up loving this thing? Well, it's out and I've heard it, and yeah, it's definitely not in the running for you know, the album of the year. I wouldn't say it's close to the worst album of the year, but yeah, it's not good. That's why I'm doing this video. Look, I'll say this. I feel a bit bamboozled by this soundtrack because you have a lot of star power. You have a lot of cool names in the mix. You have a lot of involvement from people who I'm highly interested in, who I've reviewed sometimes multiple times, and just supremely curious as to what they would contribute to such a soundtrack. The answer is like really not much. The whole concept of the soundtrack is essentially pick a bunch of pop, disco, and electro songs from the 70s, cover them. So the vast majority of the time, we're not even dealing with original music here, which honestly would have made this soundtrack a bit more exciting as an overall experience. But yeah, we're not really getting much of that. And on top of it, the covers that we do get on this record generally are not very good. They don't hold a candle to the original. I would actually say in some cases, I scrambled to turn them off because they are so much worse than the original. How bad it is really depends on the track, I suppose. Brittany Howard and Verdine White doing Earth, Wind, and Fire, Shining Star. For most of the track is not too bad, but once it hits the chorus, there's something about the vocals and the instrumentation that feels weirdly warped and a little awkward. This is even more so the case for the stiff grooves and vast overuse of vocal effects on St. Vincent's version of Funky Town. How do you not nail Funky Town? But to be fair to Annie Clark, Kool and the Gang's Hollywood Swinging is done the greatest disservice by Brockhampton. Their version of this track is pretty much unlistenable. Doesn't really pull off or execute anything about the song that originally made it appealing, and they completely failed to put their own spin on it in any way. It's just a complete L. Caroline Polachek does a version of Nancy Sinatra's Bang Bang, a track that personally I love, but her vocal performance and the instrumental take the track in a direction where the drama is completely sucked out of it. It's very plainly delivered and performed. Just the essence, the passion in the original cut is gone. There is another cover of the track later in the record, which is done over the same kind of tired instrumental. Bleacher's version of John Lennon's Instant Karma is a bit of a mess, especially on the vocal end, because Jack's shouting throughout the track is not only overbearing, but it kind of makes the lyrics less of a focus on the song, and the original melody that John Lennon sang on the track is kind of turned to mush as well, with again just kind of Jack shouting throughout the entire cut. h.e.r.'s take on Dance to the Music is one of the more listenable cuts here, I suppose, but there's nothing about her version that makes me want to listen to it more than the original. And h.e.r, as much as I was looking forward to her take on Black Magic Woman, the auto-tune on this cut is just overbearing as hell and kind of ruins the vibe of the track overall. And things do not get better from here, especially with the Minions covering Paul Simon's Cecilia. I never want to hear this again. Now, like, to be fair to the record, there are a couple of covers that are done pretty well. I could see myself sharing them with someone and saying, oh, you know, this is a pretty interesting take on this, I suppose. Those tracks being number one, Kali Uchis doing Getson Gilberto's Desafinado. There's something to the production here and her singing that just brings this supreme sense of sensuality that is beautiful, is intoxicating. Thundercat did pretty well with the Steve Miller Band's Fly Like an Eagle. Phoebe Bridgers absolutely kills it on her version of the Carpenters' Goodbye to Love. From the intimate intro to the grand instrumental shift toward the end, there is something like really beautiful and quite moving about her version of this song. Her vocals just pair with this tune perfectly. And damn if Wiseblood was not made to sing this version of Linda Ronstadt's You're No Good. Jack and Wiseblood make sure to maintain the original sinister vibe of the song and track, and yeah, you know, they don't lose the flavor of it in the process of covering it. Oh, and of course I do have to mention Turn Up the Sunshine as the intro with Diana Ross and Tame Impala, which is also a fire cut on this thing. But yeah, a whole record of this size with just almost nothing but covers and only a few of them actually being kind of decent, that's a major fucking disappointment. Especially given the freaking source material that you pulled to kind of be the backbone of this record is generally so good, like classic shit. How do you miss the mark with these songs so hard over and over and over and over that most of them are utterly boring to listen to less than halfway in? Yeah, I'm just majorly disappointed in this record. Could have been a lot better, but simultaneously, it's not anything I think we can take anything away from ultimately. Most likely everyone involved in this project, be it Jack or a musician that came on to do a cover, was kind of in it for the bag, which is totally fine. You know, line up and get your minions check. That's cool. That's great. That's fantastic. I'm sure whatever your next original project or song is going to be will be great and will be amazing. And this is just kind of a weird little Minions detour that everyone got pulled in on. You know, but yeah, you know, those are my thoughts on this soundtrack. It's not very good, no.